Deep inside a nuclear exclusion zone, a thermal camera recorded something that should not have been possible. 7 gray wolves entered a narrow valley. 37 seconds later, every one of them was dead. Not killed by radiation, not torn apart by some giant mutant. They had been trapped, redirected, driven into position by wild boars moving with terrifying precision. Some blocked the exits. Some waited in ambush. Others forced the wolves exactly where they wanted them to go. And just before the attack began, every boar in the valley froze at the exact same moment. Then the ground pulsed 3 times. Whatever these animals had become, they weren't just hunting together anymore. They were thinking together. And the wolves were only the beginning. Welcome to Sector 9, the Silent Zone. Dr. Elias Voss had spent 20 years studying animals that humans underestimated. Wolves, crows, wild pigs. He believed intelligence was rarely sudden and never supernatural. Animals learned. Populations adapted. Useful behaviors spread. But the first time Elias entered Sector 9, he wrote 6 words in his field journal. Something here is watching us back. He had come to the exclusion zone for one reason. 8 months earlier, his younger brother Daniel had disappeared near the northern perimeter while working as a security contractor. The official report blamed radiation exposure, disorientation, and severe winter conditions. No body was ever recovered. Only Daniel's radio. It had been found beside a broken fence, half buried in frozen mud. The battery was still charged. The final recording contained no screams, no gunshots, only breathing. Then, a low vibration, and Daniel whispering 5 words. "They're not chasing me." A pause. "They're moving me." Then silence. Elias never accepted the official explanation. So when a research institute offered him access to Sector 9, he entered the zone looking for evidence. He expected contaminated soil, mutated vegetation, perhaps unusually resilient populations of wild boars. He did not expect the forest to behave like occupied territory. For decades, exclusion zones had been imagined as poisoned wastelands where radiation would slowly erase life. But nature was never that simple. Remove humans from a landscape, and many animal populations return. They spread through abandoned farms, nest inside empty buildings, take over roads once dominated by machines. And few large mammals are better equipped for survival than wild boars. They eat almost anything. They reproduce rapidly. They remember food sources, recognize threats, alter routes when hunted, and can pass learned behavior through social groups. Individually, a wild boar is intelligent. But imagine generations of them surviving inside a sealed ecosystem shaped by radiation, brutal winters, contaminated water, scarce resources, abandoned infrastructure, and almost no human interference. Evolution would not need to create larger tusks. It would not need thicker skin. It would not need glowing eyes. It would need only one advantage: better coordination. Elias first noticed it on his 3rd night. Through thermal optics, he watched 23 boars moving beneath the trees. 3 large females remained near the center of the sounder. Juveniles fed close to them. 4 younger animals moved along the perimeter. 1 advanced, stopped, waited. Then another moved forward. Elias adjusted the focus. Scouts. That was the word he entered into his notes. Then one of the younger boars froze, its head lifted. The others did not look at it. No squeal passed through the group, no obvious grunt. But one by one, every animal stopped moving. Elias felt something beneath his boots. A faint pulse. So weak he initially assumed it was machinery beneath the ground. Then it came again. 3 low vibrations. The entire sounder changed direction at once. No leader moved first. No visible signal passed between them. 23 animals simply turned, as though they had reached the same decision at the same moment. Elias followed. 200 yards ahead stood one of the team's motion cameras. The sounder had altered course before entering its detection range. At first, Elias dismissed it as coincidence. The following morning, camera 12 stops transmitting. Then camera 15. Then camera 8. Over the next 7 days, 9 cameras went dark. The research team suspected failed batteries, moisture, radiation interference. Elias went to recover them. The first camera was intact. Its lens had been pressed directly against a tree. The second had been covered with wet leaves. The third had been buried beneath mud so carefully packed over the lens that the rest of the device remained untouched. Then came camera 9. Its final recording lasted 11 seconds. A young boar entered the frame. It stopped 6 feet from the camera, looked directly into the lens, then moved closer. For 4 seconds, its face filled the screen. It did not attack. It did not bite the device. It simply stared. Then a second boar appeared behind it. The first stepped aside. The second pushed mud across the lens. Blackness. Nobody in the observation station spoke. Finally, one technician whispered, "They know we're watching." Elias replayed the footage. No. He leaned closer to the screen. They know where we're watching from. That was the moment the expedition changed. Until then, the humans had been observers. After camera 9, Elias began to suspect they had become the subjects. The Boars never attacked the research station. They did something worse. They studied it. At night, individuals appeared near the tree line. Never too close, never for long. One would emerge, disappear. Then another would appear 50 yards away. The pattern constantly changed, but there was always at least one animal facing the tower, watching, learning. On the 17th night, the generator failed. Elias was alone. The station lights flickered once, twice. Then everything went dark. The electric perimeter fence died. The communications relay went silent. Emergency power should have activated automatically. It didn't. Elias reached for his rifle, then stopped. Something moved beyond the station. Not one animal, many. He raised a handheld thermal scope toward the window. Heat signatures covered the tree line. 20, 40, perhaps more. Every one of them stood perfectly still, facing him. Then Elias felt the vibration. It moved through the concrete floor and into his legs. 3 pulses. Silence. 3 more. He remembered Daniel's recording. "They're not chasing me. They're moving me." Elias descended the tower. The moment he stepped outside, the forest went silent. No birds, no insects, nothing but his own breathing. He reached the generator. The fuel line was intact. The battery remained connected. But the primary power cable had been pulled from its housing, not chewed apart, pulled loose. A steel support brace lay in the mud. Elias crouched beside it. Hoof prints covered the ground, but they were not scattered randomly. Several clusters stood on opposite sides of the assembly, as though multiple animals had pushed from coordinated positions. Wild boars are powerful animals. They root through hard soil, move heavy obstacles, break fences. An individual boar pulling at a piece of machinery would not be impossible. The frightening part was not the strength. It was the apparent division of labor. Elias's radio clicked. Static. Then a deep hum. Almost identical to the frequency captured in Daniel's final recording. Branches cracked behind him. He turned. A massive sow stood 15 yards away. She did not charge. She did not retreat. She stared at him. Another boar appeared to his left, then a third beyond the dead fence, then more. And slowly, Elias realized they had formed an open corridor leading away from the station. They were not surrounding him. They were giving him one available direction. Elias took a step toward the tower. The sow advanced. He stopped. She stopped. He looked toward the open path, then back at the animals. "You want me gone?" The sow remained motionless. Elias backed toward the access road. Nothing followed. He took another step. The corridor widened. By sunrise, Elias had walked 6 miles. The boars never touched him. But each time he slowed, he felt the vibration beneath his feet. 3 pulses, then movement to the trees. Always hidden, always close enough to remind him that his direction was not entirely his decision. When Elias reached the outer checkpoint, his colleagues demanded to know what had happened. He gave them the only answer that made sense. "I wasn't attacked." He turned toward the forest. "I was evicted." The Institute suspended operations inside Sector 9 48 hours later. Elias refused to leave because he finally understood the possibility confronting him. The animals were not behaving like predators hunting prey. They were managing threats. And once he began looking for that pattern, it appeared everywhere. Separate sounders passed through overlapping territories with fewer violent confrontations than expected. Small groups appeared near roads before larger herds crossed them. Cameras went dark shortly before major animal movements. Juveniles remained protected near the center. Powerful males shifted toward the perimeter when danger approached. None of this required telepathy. There did not need to be a literal shared brain. Animal communication can travel through sound, scent, posture, touch, and vibration. Elephants detect low-frequency calls across long distances. Prairie dogs use alarm calls that distinguish different threats. Social animals constantly exchange information humans barely notice. What if the boars of Sector 9 had simply pushed that ability further? One signal could communicate danger, another direction, another urgency. Over generations, a sufficiently efficient system could allow dozens of animals to react as a coordinated network. Not a supernatural hive mind. Something more plausible, and perhaps more dangerous. A distributed intelligence. The proof came 11 days after Elias's eviction. At 2:13 in the morning, a thermal camera near the northern ridge detected 7 gray wolves entering a narrow valley. Experienced predators, fast, alert, among the most effective cooperative hunters on Earth. 3 wild boars appeared behind them. The wolves continued north. 5 more boars emerged through the trees ahead. The wolves changed direction, east. That route appeared open. So they ran. Elias watched the footage frame by frame. The wolves entered a narrow corridor between 2 ridges. Then 6 massive boars rose from shallow depressions beneath the brush. They had been there before the wolves entered the valley, waiting. The wolves turned. Too late. The animals behind them had already closed the escape route. Elias leaned closer to the monitor. The wolves had not wandered into an ambush. They had been pushed into one. Exactly as Elias had been. One wolf broke away and sprinted toward the ridge. A younger boar intercepted it. But instead of committing to an attack, it lunged once. The wolf changed direction, straight toward 2 larger males waiting below. Elias stopped the footage, rewound, played it again. The younger animal had not attempted to kill the wolf. It had corrected its route. Different boars were performing different roles. Some pushed, some blocked, some waited, some redirected. Then every boar in the valley froze at the exact same moment. For 3 seconds, nothing moved. The audio sensor detected a low vibration. 3 pulses. Then the attack began. 37 seconds later, no wolf remained standing. But the most disturbing part came afterward. The boars did not immediately feed. They formed a perimeter, facing outward, watching the forest. The younger animals left first, then the larger males repositioned. Only after the area appeared secure did the others approach the carcasses. Elias watched the sequence again, and again. Then he opened Daniel's case file. His brother had not disappeared beside a random fence. The location stood between two major boar territories. Daniel vanished during a period when several sounders had been moving north. Maybe the animals had not hunted him. Maybe they had forced him away from something, or toward something. That possibility was worse, because it meant Daniel had understood exactly what was happening. They're not chasing me. They're moving me. Elias returned to the location alone. The broken fence was still there, the abandoned road, the same dead trees. Then his receiver detected a low-frequency pulse. 1, 2, 3. Elias looked toward the forest. Nothing moved. Another pulse came from his left, then one behind him. He slowly lowered the receiver. He was already inside the pattern. A young boar appeared between the trees, then another. Neither approached. They waited. There was only one open path, north, the same direction Daniel had been moving 8 months earlier. Against every instinct, Elias followed. The animals remained inside the forest beside him, never close enough to see clearly, never far enough to forget. Half a mile later, Elias reached an abandoned drainage tunnel beneath the old perimeter road. Inside, he found Daniel's backpack, his flashlight, his emergency kit. Then he saw the words carved into the concrete wall. 6 words. They won't cross the red water. Beyond the tunnel flowed a narrow stream, contaminated by decades of industrial runoff. Mineral deposits had turned the shallow water dark rust red. On Elias's side of the stream, hundreds of hoof prints covered the mud. On the other side, none. The animals had stopped there. Daniel had discovered a boundary, a place the boars refused to cross. But there was no body, no blood, no evidence of what happened next. Only a final trail of human footprints following the edge of the red water deeper into the zone. Elias finally had proof that his brother had survived longer than the official investigation claimed. And he had something even more dangerous, a weakness. The boars had limits, but limits could be studied. Anything that could be studied could eventually be challenged. The question was whether humanity would recognize the danger before the animals adapted again. Because outside Sector 9 were farms, grain silos, livestock facilities, highways, suburbs, cities. The boars did not need advanced technology. Their bodies were their weapons. Their communication system was their network. The landscape itself was their fortress. And unlike humans, they did not waste energy proving who was in command. Every behavior served survival. Every movement served the group. Every outsider was studied before it became a threat. For decades, humans believed the fences around exclusion zones were built to keep radiation inside. But what happens when those same fences become the only thing keeping something else from getting out? Something that recognizes cameras. Something capable of manipulating machinery. Something that can turn apex predators toward hidden traps. Something that learned how to move a human being without ever touching him. Before sunset, Elias returned to the northern checkpoint. He placed Daniel's radio beside the low-frequency recorder, then played the final message one more time. Breathing, static, a vibration. Then Daniel's voice. They're not chasing me. A pause. They're moving me. Elias closed his eyes. Outside the checkpoint, something trembled beneath the ground. 3 pulses, then 3 more. Closer. Elias opened his eyes and looked toward the fence. A single wild boar stood in the darkness, motionless, watching him. Then, Elias noticed something that made his blood run cold. The animal was standing on the human side. Maybe the most dangerous form of evolution isn't bigger claws, stronger jaws, or thicker armor. Maybe it's the moment an animal stops seeing humans as hunters, and start seeing us as a problem to be managed. So what do you think Daniel discovered beyond the red water? Did he escape because the Boars refused to cross that boundary? Or were they guiding him towards something even worse, hidden deeper inside the silent zone? Drop your theory in the comments. And tonight, if you feel 3 slow vibrations beneath your floorboards, don't wait for the 4th. Subscribe to What If Animals, because evolution never asks for permission.